Okay, here's the video tutorial for how to create the furniture plan for this conference room. And so what we did was we created this conference room from exercise 1, chapter 5, and then we're going to create and import these chairs from the end of chapter 5, exercise 3. And essentially, we're just going to copy them and place them into this drawing. And so if I go into the Model tab, here's my conference room. And then I drew up the conference chair, and it's on a title block. And so I'll go into Model Space. And we're not going to need the dimensions for this. And so I'm going to come back over to the Home tab, and I'm going to switch over to Layer 0. And then I'm going to turn off the dimension line layer. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to say edit, copy with base point. And so depending on which chairs I'm going to put in, what I think I'll do is I'll copy it with a base point at the center of the chair in the middle. And then I'll put the chairs around the table first, and then I'll need to use the back side of the chair as a base point to locate and put the chairs in there. And so I'll say copy with base point. And remember, if you don't have this menu on, what you can do is you can go to this little arrow down next to the airplane, hide menu, show menu bar. My version is slightly older, and so I don't have that airplane, but if you're using the 2003, that would be there. And so we'll say edit, copy with base point. We'll select the base point at the midpoint of the chair here, and then we'll select all the geometry, hit enter, and then I'll switch over to my conference room. And again, I'm going to switch over. I'm going to go to the furniture layer for this, and I'm going to turn off my dimension layer for right now. And I'll click on the screen. And then as we go through, we're going to go through here and start to put in our chair. So I'm going to say edit, paste as block, and I'll bring the chair in. And I'm just going to bring it in right at the midpoint of the table here. And that looks fine. It looks like they tucked the chair in slightly on these, but that's up to you. The problem with if you tuck the chair in is that you'll need to explode them. We'll see how this looks as we go through and we continue to create the geometry for it. And so then again, I can do this again, edit, paste as block. I can bring this here. I can rotate it about this midpoint. I can move it. Hit escape. And then as we continue to go through, it looks to me like they said the middle chairs are centered on the table. And so if we drew a line from the midpoint here, kind of as a construction line, and then we can either copy these or insert them again. I just think I'll insert them again. I can paste that in, and then I can rotate that about that midpoint. If you're using polar, you get nice straight lines. This is our polar button right here. And so I can then move that from that midpoint. And then I can take out my construction line. And then it says that the chairs, and actually I kind of need it, so I'm going to undo that. And a lot of times what I like to do is I like to change the color of my construction lines so I can kind of see them. And then I don't think I'll go through all the properties and change all of them, but this is a bit thick for me. What I'll do is I'll offset 2 feet 3 inches, and that'll be the spacing for the chairs. And so we'll say offset 2 feet 3. Enter. And then it looks to me like we'll need 2 chairs on this side and 2 chairs on this side. And then we can just copy those chairs. Since they're blocks, you just need to select it once. And hit escape. And then we can mirror these to the other side. Now we don't need these construction lines, so I'm going to delete those out. And then I'll draw a line just for visual purposes down the center, or midpoint to midpoint. And then what I'll do is I'll mirror it, selecting those chairs with the crossing window from this point, endpoint to this endpoint. Erase source, no. And then I'll delete that construction line. And so now we have the chairs located on the conference room table, and we'll locate them along the wall. And so they are pushed in 4 inches. Apparently, we can modify this a little bit. If I do modify this, we will see the chairs kind of sticking out. And so if I draw a line like this, and I just track it this way, and I say 4 inches, now I have kind of a construction that I can use for that. Let me move this. That. And so what I can do, and if we're going to be perfect, we're going to need to explode these chairs because we'll need to trim them, or at least one of them. And so what we'll do is we'll move it. And the fast way would be to create one chair correctly and then explode it and then trim it. But what fun would that be? So I'll explode these chairs. And then I'll erase this geometry here. When I exploded them, it defaulted to layer 0. And I can tell by clicking on it, right-clicking, and going to Quick Properties, since the geometry for the chairs was created on layer 0. And then if I turn off the line weight, I can see, yeah, that's perfect. That's going to work out just fine. And then I can delete this. And we can do the same for the other 2 chairs. And so what I did was I just drew a 4-inch long line. And then I kind of use that as a way to measure when I move these. And so I'll say move. I'll select these. I'll hit enter. Move them from the endpoint to the endpoint. And then I'll explode them all. Again, you could just do one chair and then do the layout if you watched the video before you created it. Since it's a new book, I'm picking up on these techniques as I draw this for the first time. You can also create a green crossing window, selecting them and then deleting those. And then for the chair here, I would need to draw a line 4 inches. Move it. Explode it. And for the other one as well. Move it. Explode it. And then clean it up. All right, so we have the chairs centered around the conference table, and then as we go through, the middle chair is centered on the wall for this right one. It doesn't really say, but it probably is for this other one too. And so as we go through this technique, we can paste as a block another one of our chairs here. And then we can draw a line from the midpoint. And then what we can do is we can rotate this chair and then they're 1 inch off of the back wall, so we can offset the back wall 1 inch. And that point right there is going to be where our chair should be. So we'll move it from the midpoint to the intersection. And you can shift right mouse click and get intersection, just like that. And then as we look at these chairs, they're offset 2 feet 3 inches. And so as we continue to work on this, I'm going to delete my construction line, and then I'm going to offset 2 feet 3 inches, and it looks like I'll have 2 chairs and 2 chairs. And then I can go through, and you don't have to grab it from the back exact corner, you can grab it from the front. And so if I say copy this chair from here to here to here, here, and here, it's very quick. And then I can go and erase this construction line, draw another construction line at this wall midpoint, offset that 1 inch, bring my chair in, and then I can rotate that chair. Move it from the midpoint to the intersection. Now it's giving me the midpoint of that line, which is the same as the intersection. So I'm just going to use that. Delete my construction line and then offset these 2 feet 3 inches. I'm just going to kind of look at this by eye. And then we'll copy these chairs. One, two, three, four, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So it looks like I have an extra chair here. I'll just get rid of this one. All right, and so we have the furniture laid out, and I can erase my construction lines. And then what they want us to do is to add a plant and a conference, video conference phone. And so if we go into the D2L and we look at the content, we have this conference room phone, and so we can download that and open it. Go into model space. And what we can do is we can edit, copy with a base point, and just select that center point. And then we can go into our conference room. And then we can say edit, paste as block. And then we can go and we can get our plant. Edit, copy with a base point. Go into our conference room. And it looks like we've just got the two over here at the table, at the chairs, and it looks like they made the furniture magenta, miscellaneous green, and then the structure layers blue. So I don't remember if I copied it as black, but I'm going to do it again. So I'm going to say copy with base point, I think I did. Go into my conference room, edit, paste, edit, paste. Maybe I have too many chairs. I might have to double check that. Looks like it's not centered on the wall. It looks to me like these chairs are just slightly up a little bit more. And so as a designer, I can take and just move them. You can use ortho to make sure that they move nice and straight. So we have room for the plant. And then for the layers that they're creating here, the furniture is a magenta layer. And so I can come back to my AutoCAD and I can go to my furniture layer and just change the color from blue to magenta. And then I can go and make this miscellaneous green layer. And so we'll say new layer, miscellaneous. We'll make that green. I'm going to tone down the line weight to 0.3 so that the phone and the plants are not too bold. And I don't have to make this layer current, I just need to create it. And then once I've created that layer, I can click on the object I want on that layer and put it on that miscellaneous layer. Same with my two plants. And then if we look at the textbook, we have the wall layer, which they're calling structure, for the walls and the doors. And so what I can do is I can go here, and what I can do is I could just rename the wall layer structure. And so if I go to layer properties, I click on wall, I can rename the layer to structure. And we can make that blue. And okay that. Take a look at it. I'm going to leave the doors alone. The doors are already set on a door layer. I don't think that's wrong. And so as we go through, I'll save this. And I'll save this as my initials -lab 9. If I go to the layout, I'm still using the layout that they created. That's fine. But if you wanted to put it on the Oakton layout, that's also acceptable. In fact, I think that's better. All right, that completes this video tutorial exercise.